Good morning, Northview. It is so good to see you, and I miss you all so much. I just thought today we would talk a little bit about printmaking with simple things that you probably already have at your house. So we're going to talk about how to use bubble wrap. You may have some of that, some foam plates or things that come packaged in foam, things you can do with plastic, things you can do with boxes, and even spaghetti noodles, little stuffed animals, all kinds of fun stuff. So let's have some fun. So printmaking is a process for making multiples of things, and on the back of this, I think it was a graham cracker box, I drew in glue with a glue bottle, a little Martian guy. Not sure how well that is showing up for you, but I just took some watered down craft paint. Most houses have watered down craft paint. You could try this with acrylic. And I'm just going to lightly paint my little Martian here. And we're going to stamp him and see how he turns out. So I just added a little bit of color to him. And I'm going to take a sheet of paper. This is just copy paper that we had at our house. And I'm going to lay that on, and I'm going to rub it really good and see what we get. And you peel it back, and you can get a really faint little version of a Martian here. So let's try him one more time. Sometimes printmaking you have to do a couple times to really get it to show up well. So really watery down paint. You don't want to wait too long. You don't want the paint to dry before you make your stamp. And then you're going to press really hard. You can work out all your frustrations on your printmaking. And then I'll peel it back. Yeah, yay, look at this little Martian. He's so fun. Okay, so once you get your print made, then you can go back in and you can use marker, color pencil, and you can add to it. You can make multiples. If you had fabric paint, you could print on fabric. That's fun. Let's try another way to do some printmaking. So I cut apart a piece of foam from just a foam plate, like what I put my paint on here. And we're going to give this a try. So what I did is I used a dull pencil, a really dull pencil, like this, like one that doesn't have very much of a tip, and I drew a design, and I cut it into a square so that I can make a radial design. So you're going to see what I mean in a minute here. So I'm going to just very lightly color this with my paint, my design here. Now, if you wanted to, I'm going to show you another trick. You can use Crayola marker and color it with Crayola marker. And then if you wet your paper down, because Crayola marker, water-based markers, are reactivated with water. If you use wet paper, it can restamp. So I'm going to take this now, and I'm going to turn it face down on my paper, like so. And I'm going to press that really good. Again, this is just copy paper at home, so probably a lot of your houses have copy paper. And I can see that I added a little bit too much paint, so now I'm going to try again. And I'm going to rotate it this way. I'm going to leave the amount of paint that I have on there and see what happens. So printmaking is experimental. I'm going to try this again. Rub that really good. And peel that up. That one turned out awesome. Okay, now I'm going to do it another time. Let's see how I want to do it. I'll try it this way. I'm going to go ahead and put a little more on. And maybe I'll take this time, because I learned from my mistake that I put it on too thick, I'm going to rub a little off with a rag. This is just a sleeve of an old t-shirt. I'm going to rub again. Okay, and I'm going to pull it up. What? That is so cool. Okay, let's do it again. Let's add a little bit more. And take a little off. And I'm going to lay this way. Now, if you can see how, because I did my design in 4 quadrants, it makes a radial design. So this would be really cool idea for a lot of people right now are putting things up in their windows. You could make some really cool designs that are repeating like that in your windows. So you can see what happens when you use too much paint, when you use a little bit less paint, that's like the perfect amount, even less. And so you can kind of experiment and see how much paint you need to make this work. Another method that works that you could use on your foam, and you could also use on a plastic bag, is Crayola marker. So instead of using paint, this is an easier way to go about it. You can just straight draw onto your plastic bag. Now, because it's a water-based marker, not a Sharpie, you can see that it doesn't like the plastic, but what it will like is the paper. So this is a fun way. This is called a monoprint. When you make a single print from an image, mono meaning one. So this is a monoprint. So I'm just doing 3 little blobos here, and then I'm going to turn that face down on my paper, and I'm going to rub it really hard. And this makes a really unique texture. You can see what happens here. Isn't that beautiful? Do you see that like texture? It's like speckly. Wouldn't that be so cool? You could turn into some flowers or some butterflies, or even just to do like a landscape drawing. And all I did was I just drew on a plain old plastic baggie with some Crayola marker. And that really put a really nice texture in the on the surface of the paper. Another technique that is really fun to experiment and try is bubble wrap. You can do the same thing with bubble wrap. So you could do a paint application, which we'll try a little bit of a paint application here. Very light. This is just watered down craft paint. That's all this is. Very thin paint. And I can apply that face down. You could also do this with watercolor paint or other things, and that gives you a really cool pattern texture as well. And again, you can still use your Crayola marker. Same thing, same principle. So if you don't have paint in your house and you want to go at it with marker, that takes a little bit longer to color a textured surface like this. And make a stamp this way. See, it's like art magic. Art magic is pretty cool. So think about what kinds of cool things you could do with that. You could draw like a lizard or a dragon or a monster or something. Give it some really cool patterns and textures like that. Now here's like the funnest thing. This is something that I wanted to do with my Crossroads students and my West Oakview students before we got kicked off from break. So here's a little monkey. This little monkey, he's gonna sacrifice for the art cause. Hi. He is now going to get a little bit of paint on him. If you want to just go ahead and stamp his face in the paint, that's cool. And make sure you get his texture really good, and make sure it's not like a family heirloom stuffed animal, you know. But probably you have like a leftover stuffed animal somewhere in your house, I'm guessing. And I'm just gonna lightly paint him. Now at school, I probably would use a printing ink, but you know, we make do with what we have at home. So here we've got a little painted monkey. He's happy to be blue. And I'm going to give him a nice squash into the paper. And we're gonna pull it up and see how he looks. And there's a squash monkey face. Let's give him another squash until we get the right amount of paint and the right amount of pressure. Look at that great texture. Look at the texture of his face here. So if you were to do this with like white ink on black paper or black ink on white paper, he'd look almost like an X-ray. You can make multiple monkeys. Multiple monkeys taking over the paper here. So really just experiment and play and see what things you have around your house that would make fun prints. Look at these crazy monkey heads. It will be really fun to go back in and draw into these and give them some fun bodies. So have a great day, Northview. Have some fun. Get outside, be creative, and I will see you next time.